Okay, I think we're good.
All right. All right. Well, I'm so glad that I'm able to do this. This is actually, I would say, maybe the second time I've done like a live presentation with adults. I do a live class every Monday on Facebook for children, but this is the a really nice opportunity for me to practice being in this new Zoom world of presentation. So I'm really glad that you guys joined. So I wanted to talk to you guys about mindfulness. And so first, I suppose, before we get started, I'll ask you whether either of you, Shannon or Anne, do you practice mindfulness or meditation, or do you know something about it that you might want to share? That helps me to know how far in depth I should go when I explain things.
To answer your question, I know about mindfulness. I've taken like a little course from Christine Koblentz. She works for the schools, and I especially practice meditation when it's stressful times for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Work.
That's usually the way we get into it. Yeah, exactly. Awesome. So, just to give you a little background on myself, I have credentials through two organizations to teach meditation, and one is Mindful Schools, and I'll explain why, because I have to has to do with when I was a teacher and teaching in a classroom setting. And then now that I'm retired from classroom teaching, I have credentials now that allow me to teach adults, which is another aspect of how I want to share mindfulness and meditation. So on a personal level, I have a 20 plus year experience of doing my meditation, and I started incorporating mindfulness in the classroom in 2016. The school that I was teaching at experienced several student suicides, and the grieving of that, the emotional impact of that, led me to go back to meditation, like you said, Shannon, for my own stress relief. And I realized that it was something that students probably would benefit from. So I started bringing it into the classroom, and the students really enjoyed it and really benefited from it. And so it just fueled my interest and my passion in mindfulness. And in the classroom, we call it mindfulness. We don't use the word meditation, because sometimes people feel that there's a religious connotation, but it is one in the same, actually. Oops. So I started a meditation center after I retired this summer, and my center is called Mindful Frontiers, and I'm here in Taos. And the vision is to welcome a mindful future, one child, one family, one adult, one educator, one present moment at a time. So I feel that this is something that really can change the way that we see our life and the future. And I hope that post COVID that I can do some face-to-face meditation circles. There are a couple centers here in actual physical centers here in Taos where I'd love to have a weekly or twice a week meditation group that gets together. So what I've started doing as part of Mindful Frontiers is I have a basic meditation course that's on Thinkific, which is a platform for online courses. And I'm also doing live Zoom-based meditation circles on Fridays right now that are free. And then I have a lot of videos that I've created on my YouTube channel. So I'm finding different ways to reach out to have people find out about meditation. And I also am doing some in class mindfulness lessons with a couple elementary school classes, and that's been really fun. So mindfulness, what it is, was pretty much brought into the mainstream by John Kabat-Zinn, who we call the godfather of mindfulness in the United States. And he's associated with the University of Massachusetts School of Medicine. And his definition is the one that a lot of people use when they explain what mindfulness is. And so he says that mindfulness is the awareness that arises from paying attention on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally. So we use an anchor, and either we use the breath or we use sound or body sensations, and that brings our mind to the present moment so that we can um, stay centered in the present moment. And so he used it in a medical setting with patients who were suffering from chronic pain and depression, and he had such success with that that he created what is known as MBSR, which is mindful based stress reduction, which is a type of mindfulness specifically geared for stress and pain and emotional um, challenges. And then another teacher that I gravitate to is Thich Nhat Hanh, and he's very well known. He's a Vietnamese Buddhist monk, and his whole outlook and philosophy is that mindfulness is something we can bring into our daily life. So he says it's the energy of being aware and awake to what's going on right now, whatever that is. And he even talks about being mindful while washing the dishes, taking a shower, even mindful of when we're driving a car, to just really focus on what's going on in the present moment. So mindfulness, the biggest benefit of mindfulness is the idea that between a stimulus, so that could be a thought or it could be a trigger like an emotional event, between the stimulus and how we respond, if we learn mindfulness, we have the ability to have a split moment of calm, of pause. Maybe it's taking a breath before we actually respond. And so a quote that's often used to describe this idea is Viktor Frankl, who is the author of the man's I think it's Man's Search for Meaning. He was a Auschwitz survivor, and he says between stimulus and response is a space, and in that space, which we call the mindful space, lies our freedom and power to choose. And in our response lies our growth and freedom. And when we're practicing meditation, we get more and more in tune with our body and our breath, and we're able to make that kind of step back before we respond. And I've had to put that a lot in practice lately with everything going on in our country. And it takes practice. It's something that we just keep trying to do. So I thought that with you here we would do a meditation together. I'm going to lead you through about we'll try to go for about 10 minutes, maybe 15. We'll see how it goes. And if I had had a larger group, I would have played this guided meditation video, but I think I'm going to just lead live with you. So, all right. So I use a singing bowl. A lot of meditation teachers have singing bowls, and these are generally come from Tibet. There's different kinds of bowls. And so I ring the bowl 2 times, and that indicates the beginning of our meditation. And then I'll ring it again two times at the end. And the reason to use a sound like the bell is with practice, when we hear the bell, it it signals to our body that it's time to relax. And so we can then move into the what we call the parasympathetic nervous system, and that's the part that allows us to calm down. So we'll go ahead and start. So as we begin, I'll remind everyone that mindfulness is about paying attention to something on purpose without judgment. And today we will focus on our breath. Now, the breath is always available to us as a mindful um, anchor, anchor for our attention. So, to get started, wherever you are, if you're seated on a chair, or if you're on your bed, or if you want to move from the screen and sit on the floor, you're welcome to do that. And find a comfortable, relaxed position. Normally, we want the back, our spine, to be straight as is comfortable, and our head is comfortably centered over our shoulders. And we sometimes it's nice to tip the chin just a little bit towards the chest, not too far, but just a little bit, and that helps to align the spine all the way up to the head. And whatever that position is for you, it's nice to have both feet on the ground if we're sitting in a chair, or if you're on the floor or on your bed, then you can have your legs crossed, or you can have them stretched out. Mainly, we want to be comfortable, and we want a position that we can hold for a little while. You can either close your eyes. I have the practice of closing my eyes, but I may open them as I'm guiding. Or we can have a relaxed gaze where you're just gently looking at a neutral spot in front of you, slightly down. And the reason for that is we don't want to be distracted by lights and things around us. So whatever we need in order to have that centered focus, whether the eyes are closed or open, is fine, and up to how you like it better. The hands are in our lap. You can interlace your fingers. You can put your hands on your legs or on your knees. And again, make sure that they're comfortable and that um, you feel comfortable. So let's start out with taking a couple breaths, deep breaths, where you breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. Again, the breathing, taking a deep breath in and out and breathing out the mouth is also another stimulation of the parasympathetic nervous system that allows us to relax, to let go. And then we just let the breath return to its normal rhythm, and we can breathe in and out of our nose at this point. And then this is what we focus on. So we realize that the breath is always present. It's what brings oxygen into our body and letting out the carbon dioxide that plants use to then regenerate oxygen for us. So it's the life-giving, it's a life-giving energy and quality that we have. And we can always use our breath to bring ourselves to the present moment. And most of us will have thoughts. Pretty much everyone will have thoughts coming into their mind. And that's completely natural. It's what the mind does, it's what makes us Homo sapiens because we think. That's the beauty. We think, I think, therefore I am. And so when those thoughts come, we just smile, acknowledge that they're there, and then we bring our focus back to the breath so that those thoughts can move on like clouds drifting in the sky. So I'll let you play with that, coming back to the breath, give you some space to be curious and to experience that for a few breaths on your own. So I invite you now to try a different anchor. So we can have an anchor of sound as well. So we let the breath move on and do its own rhythm. We don't pay attention to it specifically, and we move our awareness to sounds that we hear. And so, since we are in our homes, you'll hear our family in an adjacent room. Maybe the TV is on. If it were really quiet, we might even hear the furnace or the refrigerator. And if we were outside in the daytime, we might hear birds singing or a car going by. So let's just sit with that anchor and see what we notice. If any of the sounds seem louder than we would like, this is where the non-judgment comes in. And we try to accept that the sound is part of the present moment awareness. And we try to just hear it as some background noise without getting really sucked into it to try to figure out what's going on or what the children are doing or what's on TV. And see if in between the sounds we can hear silence. And again, if thoughts come into the mind, and if we feel that we want to analyze the sounds or something, we just recognize that that's happening. And then just bring ourselves back to just the non judging of the sound as a stimulation, as a sensation. We always have the option to just come back to the breath. Another anchor that we use in mindful meditation is the anchor of sensations in the body. And so you can take your attention away from the sounds and replace that anchor by feeling your feet on the ground, maybe the sensation of what you're wearing, whether it be your shoes or socks or pants, your shirt, just the sensation of that against the skin becomes another anchor. Or it can be simply your fingers in whatever position they're in, just sensing what your fingers in your hand or hands are in contact with. You can also anchor yourself in seated area, wherever you're seated, the weight of your body in your chair or wherever you're sitting down again. Maybe you're on a cushion or on the ground, and you can sense that as an anchor, a grounding anchor. So we've done the anchor of our breath, of sound, of the sensation, body sensations, and now whichever you prefer to use for the rest of this time together, decide which you would like to use as your anchor to keep bringing yourself back to this moment when thoughts come into your mind. And I invite you to, if you're using the breath, to be really curious of where you feel that breath. Is it at the nose or the chest or the lower abdomen? And if you're using sound, then I invite you to anchor yourself in the spaces between the sounds, the silence that's in between the sounds. And if you're using body sensations, then the invitation is to notice more detail what the feeling is, a specific spot, maybe one finger or one toe in your foot. And I'll also recognize that many of us who work all day, when it comes to the evening like this and we're doing a meditation, we may find ourselves getting sleepy. And if that is the case, many meditators actually do fall asleep. And if we don't want to fall asleep, then we remind ourselves as we feel ourselves nodding off to come back to the anchor, whichever anchor we've decided to settle on. But we don't judge ourselves. If we're tired and we feel that we're nodding off, we simply acknowledge that that's what's happening. So as we wind down, before I ring the bell, um, I'm going to share with you a practice that Thich Nhat Hanh uses. And he uses anchors of phrases oftentimes. So he will offer, when I breathe in, I know I am breathing in. When I breathe out, I know I'm breathing out. Another option is, breathing in, I bring kindness and joy to my body. Breathing out, I share kindness and joy with the world. So those become like mantras, and we repeat them as many times as we need to bring our focus back to the moment. So, as we finish our meditation, take some good breaths to bring you back to the here and wherever you happen to be. And you can look around the room, notice colors, objects to bring that consciousness back to where we are. And you can stretch. Sometimes we feel a little tight, and so we need to stretch our bodies to get the blood moving again more smoothly. Ah. And I thank you for practicing with me, and I would love to get feedback of what resonated with each of you. Um, it's good to have feedback. So if you want to unmute and share, I would love to hear from you.
I assume that since I'm the only one that unmuted, I can talk.
That's right, Anne. You go ahead.
When you mentioned mindfulness, it reminded me that I'd read a book and I went to get it out of my shelf so I could tell you what it was. And it was, now I've forgotten. Anyway, it's by the Kabat-Zins.
Yeah, John Kabat-Zinn.
And the wife and the husband both.
Okay.
And it's everyday blessings.
Ah.
The is it The Art of Mindful Parenting?
Nice.
And I can't remember if one of my, it may have been my eldest daughter who has 5 kids that set me onto that, but I think it was the one that's more into yoga and stuff that has 2 children that are 18 years apart. So that has created more stresses for her. So, but
Wow.
that's not, but I've been trying to, I have rods in my back and they're from T9 to the bottom of my spine. And I've been trying to stand up straighter when I go for walks. And lately I haven't been able to do it. So that was what I decided to work on when we were meditating.
Nice. So you,
See if I could get loose enough to
oh,
do that. And it did help.
wonderful. Oh, that's great. I'm glad to hear that you did feel a little bit of relief and were able to focus on that. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. Would you like to share something, Shannon? How did that compare to maybe other times that you've meditated or?
Sure. I find the easiest is to focus on the breathing because I've done it most often.
Mhm,
But it was nice to learn more about other things you can focus on
mhm.
because where I am right now, the clothes dryer was on, the aquarium was on. My husband and my son are here. They're benefiting from this too. They're listening in. But I could hear them working and someone's in the kitchen right now warming something up. But just to be able to still meditate even with all that going on, it means you could do it anywhere really. And I said earlier that I meditated when I was stressed out, but maybe it's something that would be worthwhile to do every day.
Wow. Well, that's quite an insight that you all of that that you shared is quite a bit of insight that you found for yourself. And so I would respond that yes, it's meditation is beneficial even when we're not stressed out. And I think that what it does, because it's a practice, if we practice even when we're not in that dire need of it, we build up that ability to then have something that we can tap into when we do feel the stress. So I like what you said. You had that insight that it would be beneficial every day anyway. Yeah. Thank you. Felicity, did you have anything that you might want to share?
I also liked the idea of changing your anchor because I think I have done meditation other times and it's I like the person who I've done it with before, she'll say like pay attention to where your body's touching the ground, and then I have become aware of like sounds. You can hear all the sound in my background, right? But when you mentioned the sounds, like I heard my son is washing the dishes, like I heard all that, and then I totally like started hearing my heartbeat, which was I was like that, like all the sounds were around me, and then I could hear this internal, which I just thought was interesting. I'm also wearing headphones, so maybe that was like, but yeah, I like
Yeah.
the that idea of changing your anchor too. That was helpful.
So if if I were doing a regular group, and I do this when I do mindfulness in the classroom with students, is I'll focus on just one thing, especially if the students are really young. Um, it's not easy for them to switch attention like that. But for us, I chose to give you a little idea of what each of those might be, and certainly we can do that during a sit. We can decide to start out with the breath and then move on, or we just decide which one works best for us and then we just gravitate to that. Some young people have trauma in their life. And so for them, sometimes paying attention to the breath and closing their eyes is not comfortable for them. So they benefit from having something a little bit more external, until they're practiced enough, or until they have enough background to be able to go inside to the breath. So that's why there's different anchors. It's so that it fulfills the need of different places and different people. So yeah, so that's why I chose to show you a little bit more. And I wanted to also say that some traditions or meditation practices talk about don't pay attention to the breath. They have this guidance of just of let it go, let it go, let it go. But it's actually not really possible to let go of all of our thoughts, and so we just want to recognize that we have them, and then when they come, we use our anchor to distract us from the thought and back to the present moment. So. So I thought we had a nice little discussion, but I just thought maybe if you would like, I kind of worked up some questions for you to just reflect on. How do you, or could you, practice mindfulness in your life? Are there times that you think you might be able to bring that into your life? If either or any of you want to share those thoughts. You kind of alluded to it, Shannon, when you said, I feel like I could put it in my daily life. Yeah, Felicity.
I think I was fortunate over the summer that there was like an informal group that would meet outside the library, outside where I was working before in Buddha Valley Library. This woman, she started, at first it was daily, but then it became like a couple times a week. And it was really helpful to me to have people to meditate with, because I'm not that disciplined at making the time for myself. But it was really, it totally became something that I built my day and even my week around. So like that would be the next step for me, for sure, would be to try to do it on my own without other people. But I like the idea of having a practice with other people too. Like,
Keeps us motivated to know that there's others waiting for us, or we're waiting for them, or we need them.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this other question is, how do you, or how could you use mindfulness in your workplace? Now we're all kind of working from home now, but so that would be more like, how can we use it to balance work and our family time? And so that's something to think about. And maybe you just want to think about how you can sort of bring that into your family, or the workplace, right? It's not always that. Yeah, Shannon.
When you talked about how we could bring meditation into work, I was thinking that it could be a way to start the day
Yeah.
every day, and a way to end the day as well. But I mean, that's really ambitious to start from not doing it at all to spending minutes in the morning and 10 minutes at night. But
yeah,
that could be a goal to work towards.
sure, absolutely. It'd be a nice way to start and end, right? And the other question, unless Anne, you just let me know if you want to jump in and say something. The other question that came to mind is about youth. Of course, that's one of my focuses, is to share with youth, because I have this ideal that if we taught, we are teaching, but if more youth grew up knowing about mindfulness and meditation, then as they got into those teenage and adolescent years where things get really challenging for them, both inwardly and in their life, they would have something they could grasp and use to help them navigate through those times. And so, what do you all think about teaching mindfulness to youth and how that might impact our world and our society?
I'd be I'd be curious, Anne Marie, if you have suggestions for how to do that, because my daughter is 17 and she definitely has gone through her stresses, where she's like she can be in tears
Mhm.
because of AP chemistry assignments or her college financial aid applications, or like whatever it is that and I don't have a lot of tools to help her um, try to be more calm. And so if you had suggestions
Sure.
for that,
So,
yeah.
so one very, very not easy, but a very direct one. Instead of saying, "Okay, honey, let's sit for 10 minutes, and listen to our breath," it could start with just what's called the 3 breath break, and you just when that when you sense or when you sense, because it'll kind of have to come from you first. You sense that she's getting wound up about whatever it is, her assignments, I have too much work at school and I don't know about my college and da da da, and it starts to escalate. At some point, you just say, "Oh, sweetheart," or "What's your daughter's name?"
Emma.
Emma. So you say, "Emma, I sense that you're getting that this is really bothering you. Like I can sense that you're getting really nervous. Let's take 3 breaths together." And you just take a 3 breath break, and it's just in through the mouth. I mean, in through the nose, out through the mouth, and we just do 3 together. It doesn't take very long, and it really does desensitize. It's the part of our brain, that fight flight part of our brain, that's the amygdala, gets triggered with that anxiety. And when we take the breath, it moves the energy back to the prefrontal cortex, which is where we have our executive function, where we can actually say, "Okay, I'm gonna," the thinking part. And that would be the first thing that comes to my mind, because we at their age, we can't get them to just sit for 20 minutes and just focus on the breath. It kind of adds more stress. So the 3 breath break, I think, is a great place to start. And then you do it with her. Say, "Hey, let's do it together. I'm feeling a little stressed right now too," or whatever. So yeah. Anybody else have anything? Yeah, Shannon.
Oh, I wanted to say that, great question, Felicity, because I have a 16-year-old son, and in high school, it just seems like everything's happening. You have hormones, relationships, school, grades, learning how to drive, learning, how to make friends as you're older, and thinking about the future, tests, ECT, SAT, moving out of the house, being on your own, learning how to deal with money, how to cook, because you have to do it yourself. And it just seems like it's all expected of you by the time you're 18. You have
Right.
to know this. And so I think the meditation, the mindfulness can be really helpful, especially for teenagers.
Yeah.
Because said there's the depression and
Mhm.
suicide and all those negative thoughts and feelings that can be really intense
Yeah. Yeah.
at that age.
Yeah. So meditation and mindfulness, we really, really focus on non-judgment. In other words, if you don't get it right, there's no such thing as not getting it right. You just try. It's just a practice. So the three breath break, it's just like, okay, let's try that. And then from there you can go to longer, but to have something to grasp on as a possible break between those thoughts of life that blows up, and then they snowball, and then pretty soon we're just stuck inside of that fight flight, and we can't get out of it. So the breath really helps. So thanks, Shannon. Yeah, it is young people are very stressed out right now. Yeah. isolated at home and they're not with their friends at school. It's really hard. I have a 16-year-old as well, and she had a real hard semester last semester. Um, and it all of a sudden she realized, I'm not going back to school. I'm not going to see my friends. There's not going to be the dances and the this and the that. No social time. So it's stressful for them. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for those thoughts. Those are really good. So to finish up, I did this fancy little thing with a QR code. If that's something that you do, and it kind of takes you to all of my links and such. But if you just ever want to look and see what I have at my website, it's just mindfulfrontiers.net. It's the NET ending. And Felicity had asked me to share some books that I liked, that had to do with meditation and mindfulness. And these are four that I really like for different reasons. So the first one, Buddha in the Classroom, it's kind of the book that got me sort of it intrigued me about bringing meditation into the classroom. There were a lot of things going on at that same time, but this particular book is written by a teacher, a professor, and she talks about how she dealt with all the stress that happens in the classroom and how she used meditation to help her relax around life as a teacher. And then Self-Compassion for Parents, similar to Anne, a similar book to what you were mentioning. This one is, the author is Susan M. Pollack, and I heard her speak on a podcast. So I got her book, and it's small little stories, and then of different situations that parents have with their children, and how the parent can use meditation as a form of self-care, to take care of their, what they're feeling around their children. The third one, Say What You Mean. This is one of my favorite teachers. You can't really read at this size, but his name is Oren J. Sofer. But all you need to know is Say What You Mean, and it's using mindfulness and nonviolent communication techniques to become better communicators, better listeners, and better communicators. It's a beautiful, really good book. And then the next one by Sharon Salzberg is a recent book. And she's one of the big names with John Kabat-Zinn. She was of that era. And she wrote this book recently, Real Change, Mindfulness for Real. What does it say? I'm sorry. I need to blow this up if it'll let me. Nope, not letting me.
It says mindfulness to heal ourselves and our world, I think.
There you
And-
go. Yeah,
and that-
exactly. Mindfulness to heal ourselves and the world. Yes, it's a beautiful book. Also about self-compassion and compassion for others. Because in meditation, there's a technique of where you are wishing yourself well and then wishing the world well. Loving kindness is a type of meditation that we practice as well. So those are some books that I think are good ones to explore.
I don't think I need to give my poll, but can I just
No.
show you that I did a Zoom poll? Look,
Sure.
isn't that cool? Or can you see it? No, you probably can't see it because Anne Marie is sharing the screen, huh?
Let me stop sharing. So I'd love to see your poll.
But I don't think, oh, look, launch poll. This is the,
Let's
look,
do it. Let's do it.
new
You took the time. You took the time to do it. Let's answer it.
new skills. But see, I'm not sure that, is this gonna work?
I'm able to fill it out.
You're able to do it?
Yeah, I'm doing it right now on my screen.
So I don't think I can answer it because I'm the one, this is my learning experience.
You probably
Um,
can't do it, but we can.
Yeah. So I think for you, Anne, you're probably personal invitation.
That's what I did. I put
Okay.
invitation.
I bet.
Oh, it works. Okay.
Yeah, and other, I have other as my zip code.
Okay. And then
Yeah.
you can scroll down.
And then you submit and you get the information and you scroll down to get to all the other questions.
Mhm.
Let's see. Okay, so Shannon did put her, Shannon, is that like for a library newsletter?
Because you had a question that said if you would like to get the newsletter, put your email in the chat.
Yeah,
Right.
okay. And I could ask you, Anne and Shannon both, do you have any suggestions for upcoming topics for library conversations?
No idea. Which topics? Okay. If I hit submit, then I don't need to give you my email address.
Yeah,
If you already have it.
we know how to get a hold of you, Anne.
Okay. All right. So do more people that I really need to know. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I could suggest topics, but so far I was interested in the ones you had. Now I wrote, okay, so after I submit, does it go away?
I think after you submit, then I'll end it, and then that's my little learning experience.
That's great. That's really good because then you'll compile information as more of these go along.
I just hit the X because I lost my pictures. I don't know why I lost my pictures.
You
of
lost?
people, and now they're back.
Oh, our faces,
Yeah, they were under the
the poll.
questionnaire,
Yeah,
the poll.
yeah.
Okay.
So now they're back.
Anyway,
That was my presentation, and I'm really happy that you all were here. And I'm thankful to Felicity for inviting me, and I'm glad to meet you, Anne and Shannon. And maybe we'll meet again somewhere in the sidewalk.
that was yeah, I didn't know what to expect because I hadn't had time to look at my emails today to see what the topic was for tonight. It's just my husband, who's treasurer of Friends of Los Alamos County, he said, you have to do it so when you're done, you can tell me and I can PayPal the speaker. So I said, okay, there's the craziest reason in the world for doing, for watching something, but I didn't know what you were going to do. So it's very good for me because I could feel so the T9 issue with my back being fused is that the hazard of being fused partially is that you can move, and the hazard of not being fused partially is that if you're fused completely, then you can hardly move, pieces at all. But because of the weak link where it's this part up here can go whichever way it wants. And the only thing the doctor said was after the surgery was if you're in a car wreck and something knocks that out, go to the ER first thing so they can figure out what to do to. So it's let's see. So I had this surgery in 2008, And so this is the first time I've noticed that age deterioration is causing problems that
Mm.
that I need to address. So when I walk, I talk to myself about, my husband and I walk, and he won't let me walk by myself because I have a knee problem right now, and he doesn't want to have to go looking for the body after the walk. So he just comes to, and it's probably good for both of us. I was thinking it's interesting for you to have 3 people with 16-year-olds and then some old person that's way past 16-year-olds. We have probably half our grandchildren are over 16. And all I want to say is we survived and they survived. But I think that the everyday blessings and being mindful and not speaking out before you think, that was the most useful thing I got from
Great.
from that book. That
Yeah. Yeah.
be, I probably only have cursed out one of my 3 children one time, and after that, nobody has had to deal with it. It was so humiliating after I did it that I realized that you definitely have that space in there that you can think about before you
Mhm.
step on somebody.
Mhm.
And it's been very hang on. Let me see. Okay. House phone, don't answer it. If you just take that moment not to say whatever you feel like saying, your kid will be a lot better off, and so will you.
That's
And
exactly right. Take a breath. Take a breath before you react so that you end up responding rather than reacting. That's great.
yeah.
That's really
And
powerful.
so this was very useful because I've been talking to myself about standing up straight when I go out because I'm leaned forward. And tonight I could feel the relaxation when we were doing the meditation. So thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Anne. And Shannon, thank you also. Thank you very much for your kind words. And Felicity, thank you for inviting me.
I really enjoyed it, Anne Marie. Thank you so much.
I wish you all the best, and may you be happy and joyful and healthy, and may your families also enjoy good health and relaxation. So if you ever want to reach out or email or ask about other resources, feel free to go to my website, or you can get my email through Felicity. So thank you so much.
That's the mindfulfrontiers.net
Yes, that's correct.
resources. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you
Okay,
very
ladies,
much.
I'll let you get back to your families and see you around.
Thank you. Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Thank you.